All right, so today we're doing only 2 of the problems. We're gonna save the other ones for later. So it'll actually be a shorter lesson, but not necessarily easy. Pyramids are still going to be the most difficult problems. So first we have find the area of the base. Easy, area of the base is a square, 4 by 4 is 16. Then we have the volume of the base. Volume for a pyramid is 1/3 area of your base times your height. We have the 1/3, we know the area of the base is 16, but what's the height? That is actually a little bit tricky. So the height is from the base of the pyramid to the tippy top. It's that point right there. So how are we supposed to find the height? And it's not 8 because 8 is the slant height. So on one of these, 8 would be the slant height, but we actually need to know the height. And remember, they're a little bit different values. So here's this height, which is the same as this. Let's go with this right here would form a right angle. And what do you guys think the length of this one is? It's half of this, so it has to be 2. And then, of course, this 8 is the slant height. What letter do they use for the slant height? They use the cursive letter L. Okay, so now that I know that, now I can plug all of this information into my formula. So I'm going to plug that in. All right, so we drew this right triangle. I actually need this height to plug into here, so I had to quickly do Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm solving for this, so it turns out to be, you could say it is about 7.7 or 7.75. 2 decimal places is probably better. So now I have 1/3. Area of your base is 16. Height of the pyramid is 7.75. It is not 8, but they're really close. So if you used 8, you would probably get a close answer, but it's actually wrong. And then volume is centimeters cubed. So you can plug this straight into your calculator as 16, well, if I do it this way, times. So what I do is I actually just take everything and then divide it by 3. So 16 times whatever that number was, and then all divided by 3. Or you could do 1/3 times 16, either way. All right, surface area is a little bit more complicated. 2 ways to do this. You can either use the formula, or you can add all the individual pieces. So for the surface area, what I do is I'm going to add up all the pieces. I'm going to add up the bottom, so the base is 16, and I'm going to add up all the triangle sides. So if I draw one triangle, I know that the base is 4 and the height of that triangle is actually 8. So plugging that in, base times height divided by 2. So one face of these triangles is going to be 16, but there's 4 triangles. So 16 times the 4 triangles is 64. So now I'm adding the 4 triangles, 64 plus 16. So 64 plus 16 is going to be 80 centimeters squared for the surface area. That's how I do it. Now I'm going to actually use the formula for it. So I found the formula for the pyramid. The surface area is 1/2 PL plus capital B. And we'll talk about what that means in a minute. All right, so I went back, found the formula, and it is 1/2. P stands for the perimeter of your base. The perimeter of this base is going to be 4 times 4, so all the way around, 16. L stands for the slant height. We know that the slant height is 8, so that goes in here, plus area of your base. Area of your base, we already said, was 16. Plug that into your calculator and you get 80. So again, you can think about it or use the formula. All right, problem 2 is the cylinder, and the other part went out up here where we actually still had to find the volume and the surface area. So I'm just going to bring it back to this part. Okay. All right, so we have the area of your base. Well, the area of your base is a circle, and formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. So pi, the radius is 3, so pi 3 squared, 9 pi. If you plug it into your calculator, 28.27. If you had used 3.14, your answers will be a little bit different. And then in the end, they might have a rounding error, but that's fine. Okay. The volume. Volume for a cylinder, there is a formula, but it's actually just like a prism. The volume is going to be the area of your base times whatever height you have. So area of your base times the height. So the volume, again, is area of your base times the height. That's how I think about it. If you go to the formula page, they say, well, area of your base is a circle. That's actually pi r squared, and the height is h. So pi r squared h. They use that formula. I don't use that formula. I just go area of your base times the height. Turns out it's the exact same thing. And now let's plug all these values in. So area of the base we know was 28.27. The height of this was 2. Plug that into my calculator and I get 56.54. Volume is centimeters cubed. All right, the next one, surface area. This one is actually a little bit tricky. So we know that for the surface area, it's like if you were to paint all the way around it. Well, if you were to paint all the way around it, we have a circle on the top and a circle on the bottom. But what does this round part look like? Well, if you were to unfold it, you could see this is called the net. So in this case, it's actually 2 circles and a rectangle. Oh, that's easy. You know how to find the area of a rectangle. Area of a rectangle is going to be length times width. Well, in this case, the width would be the height, but what would the length of that be? Oh, the length is actually the circumference of this. Okay. So here's the surface area for a cylinder. So cylinder volume, here's the surface area. Copied it down and I'll go back and explain everything. All right, so surface area is, we found from the formula sheet, and you don't have to memorize it because you'll have access to it, 2 pi. The radius was 3. The height of this was 2 plus 2 pi. The radius 3 squared. Plug it into your calculator and whatever you get. Now, again, if you're using pi, you're going to get a little bit of a different answer versus if you use, let me get this to focus, 3.14. So if you use pi, here's your answer. If you use 3.14, a little bit different, that's fine. It's a rounding error. And that's how you would use solve this using the formula. Again, I personally don't use the formula. I just think about it. So you can fast forward to the next problem or see how I actually would do this problem. All right, so the way I would think about this problem is surface area is your 2 circles and then that rectangle, right? So the 2 circles and then the rectangle. So that's exactly how I did it. So the 2 circles, I know that one of them is 28.27. So I'm going to do 2 times the area of what it is, 28.27, plus the rectangle. Well, the rectangle is here. So this is a circumference. Formula for circumference is 2 pi r. And the radius was 3. So 2 pi times 3, which is 6 pi. So 6 pi times 2 is 12 pi. So plug this into my calculator. Oops, you can't see that. All right, so you can see the way we had done it before. Using pi with the formula, using 3.14, or the way I did it, turns out to be the same. Again, these are formulas that you will have to know exactly how to use. This method is you just think about it and get your answer. Okay. All right, the next problem is the cone problem. So area of your base, easy. It's a circle, so it's pi r squared. Your radius was 3, so pi 3 squared. So pi times 9, whatever that is, and it's centimeters squared. Next one is volume. Volume is the same thing as a pyramid. Volume, the relationship is 1/3 area of your base times your height. Well, 1/3 area of the base we already found, and the height, ooh, we didn't know the height. So, how do we do this? Oh, they did tell you the height. The height was 7. Lucky. Okay, so the height is 7 right there. Okay, that's the same as this. So it's 1/3, 28.26 times 7, whatever that is in your calculator, and it's centimeters cubed. That's the easy part. Now, the surface area. Surface area for a cone is actually tricky. If you were to talk about the surface area, what would the surface area of a cone look like? If I unraveled it, what would it look like? What? Okay, this is a weird shape. It's not exactly half a circle. It's very close, but not exactly half a circle. So this is the only time where we actually use a formula. Okay, why? Because this would be too weird to calculate. So, formula for the surface area of a cone. This is the only one where I always use the formula. Formula is pi times the radius times the slant height plus pi times the radius squared. All right. So in this case, this is going to be pi r squared was just going to be the area of your base. And then we just have to figure this out. Okay. So pi, we have the radius, they gave it to us as 3. The slant height. Slant height is going to be this piece right here. So we know that the height was 7. 3, Pythagorean theorem, find the slant height. Square root of 58, you can leave it as square root of 58 or 7.6 in your equation, and then plug it all in. So pi times 3 times 7.6 plus the area of your base, and whatever you have. 99.89 centimeters squared. Again, you have to use a formula for this one. There's no other way to think about it because the surface area for a cone is a little bit weird. Okay. All right. The next problem you guys are going to like because you actually have already done it. It was on your last test. So we have a hemisphere. What is a hemisphere? Hemisphere is half of a sphere. So volume, well, you need to know formula for the volume. Volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. So to find the volume of a hemisphere, which is half of a sphere, 4/3 pi r cubed, whatever that is, and then divide your answer by 2. Okay, so not bad. And again, these numbers are big because 9 cubed is a big number. Surface area of a sphere. Surface area is the one that you are most likely to get wrong for a sphere. So surface area is, for a regular sphere, is 4 pi r squared. For a hemisphere, divide it by 2. That would give you this. But when you have a hemisphere, you're actually adding another surface. You're adding this flat circle piece. So you actually have to add a whole nother circle. So here you have 4 pi r squared plus pi r squared. Okay. Now, there is a math hack. Let me write that down. All right, so a shortcut for the surface area of a hemisphere. I am not encouraging this, but if you see it, and Noah in our 5th period class, he actually did come up with this. So 4 pi r squared, this will always reduce to 2 pi r squared. 2 pi r squared plus pi r squared is 3 pi r squared. So to find the surface area for a hemisphere, plug that in, 3 pi, my radius was 9 squared, and I get the same thing. Okay. Again, I would do it this long way, or if that works for you. Okay, that's the end of the lesson for today.